You learn a lot about a person by how they drink their coffee. My wife, Camille, liked hers with a touch of almond milk, no sugar, hot enough to burn the tongue if you weren't careful. Every morning, I made it just that way. Out of habit. Out of love, once. Out of duty, eventually. And now? Now it was part of the act. My slow, deliberate performance in a theater of betrayal where she still thought she was the director. I didn't say a word when I found out. Not when my daughter, bless her young, confused heart, came to me with trembling hands and that broken look in her eyes no child should wear. Not when she whispered, "Daddy." I opened Mommy's laptop. She didn't mean to. Kids never do. They just stumble into the grown-up world when no one's watching. And what she found wasn't some old photo album or a work email. No, she found poison. Line after line of it, from Camille's best friend Vanessa, written like a manual for emotional assassination. Be gentle. Guilt works better than anger. Withdraw slowly. Make him beg. Trained dogs always beg. The trial trip is next week. He'll never suspect it's not a business retreat. It's working. My husband is now like a trained dog. A trained dog. Funny how reading something like that doesn't explode inside your chest. No, it's quieter than you'd think. Like a match lighting in a dark room. You don't scream. You don't cry. You just see. Suddenly. Clearly. Every moment, every conversation, every carefully orchestrated silence makes perfect sense. I didn't tell my daughter what it meant. She was too young. I just told her thank you, hugged her tighter than usual, and sent her to her room with ice cream and cartoons. Then I sat there, staring at the screen like it might rewrite itself if I waited long enough. It didn't. The file was a chat thread. Vanessa feeding Camille step-by-step instructions on how to twist the screws inside me. Emotional gaslighting. Strategic affection withdrawal. Carefully measured doses of guilt and praise to keep me teetering. All leading up to her trial trip with a man named Aaron. A name I recognized only in the sense that it was everything I wasn't. Aaron with the gym-cut frame and casual stubble. Aaron, who understood her, who made her feel seen, and who, according to the chat, could take her places I never could. Yeah, Camille said that too. Between heart emojis and plans for a wine-soaked weekend at a mountain resort. I should have confronted her then and there. But I didn't. I made her coffee instead. The next morning, Friday, I handed her the steaming cup with a smile. She kissed my cheek. Told me I was sweet. That she was lucky. Said she had a stressful day coming up and might need some time to reset this weekend. Take all the time you need, I said. She had no idea I'd already called the hotel. No idea I'd booked the adjoining room under a different name. No clue I knew the check-in time, the suite number, the room service habits of her precious Aaron. I even knew he had a nut allergy. Not that it mattered. This wasn't going to be the kind of trap that used poison. This was psychological. Surgical. Saturday came like a gift-wrapped box of vengeance. She left that morning, duffel bag packed with lingerie I'd never seen, and a perfume I hadn't smelled since before we got married. She kissed our daughter goodbye and told her she'd bring her something nice from the conference. I stayed home, washed the dishes, cut the lawn, played the role to perfection. By 8:45 that night, I was already in the room next to hers. I didn't burst in, didn't confront them mid-act like some rabid animal. That's not justice. That's impulse. What I had in mind was far more memorable. When the screaming started, Camille's voice shrill with confusion, terror, and shame, I was already halfway down the hallway, watching through the hallway's mirrored wall as Aaron stormed out, half-dressed, his face red with rage. She came after him, barefoot and sobbing. He never looked back. The room key I slipped under their door had done the trick. Just one little flash drive, a gift from hotel staff, with a folder titled The Trained Dog Files. Inside? Screenshots. Chat logs. A recorded message from me, reading back her own words in a calm, level voice. No accusations. No anger. Just facts. My husband is now like a trained dog. She collapsed in the hallway after Aaron disappeared into the elevator. Her sobs echoed off the walls, just like they still do in my head. I watched her from down the corridor. Not out of sympathy. Out of confirmation. The trap had sprung. And it was only part one. You'd think after watching your wife crumple in the hallway of a hotel she lied to get into, after seeing the panic in her face when her fantasy man bolted and left her in a silk robe and a trail of shame, you'd feel something. Satisfaction. Maybe. Victory. Rage fulfilled. But me? I felt nothing. That's what betrayal does. It hollows you out. Burns everything that made you soft. I didn't get joy from watching her unravel. I got confirmation that I'd been right to let the leash drop. Let her wander, let her hang herself with the very rope she thought I'd never notice missing. I stayed at the hotel until morning. I didn't go back to our house. Her house, now, or it would be soon enough. I already had the paperwork prepped, notarized, and stored with a lawyer who owed me more than one favor. All the messages, recordings, bank statements, burner accounts, I had everything. The whole damn circus documented and categorized. The coffee wasn't the only thing I'd been brewing. By 7 a.m., I drove to my brother's place. He's a quiet man, a mechanic who doesn't say much, but when I showed up on his porch with a duffel bag and dead eyes, he opened the door and didn't ask a thing. Just pointed to the guest room and went back to watching some grainy car show. "Stay as long as you need," was all he said later, handing me a mug of black coffee with a nod. I didn't respond. Just sipped. Still numb. Still processing. At 10:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Camille, 17 missed calls. Text, please. Can we talk? Please come home. Another text. I didn't mean any of it. You're the only one I've ever loved. I'm sorry. Another. He meant nothing. It was a mistake. We can fix this. Don't do anything crazy. It was like reading a script. The kind of desperate act a woman plays when the audience she was performing for suddenly walks out mid-show. I didn't respond. Let her sit in that quiet void, the one I lived in for months while she plotted how to train me like a mutt. By noon, she tried calling my daughter's phone. I had already confiscated it that morning, not because I didn't trust my girl, but because Camille had earned the right to hear nothing but her own breath echoing through her mistakes. Instead, I called my daughter's school, told them her mom wasn't authorized to pick her up anymore, sent over the emergency custody forms I'd filed that morning. Signed. Sealed. And the evidence? Airdropped to my lawyer and the school's head administrator. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just moved pieces. Calmly. Deliberately. Trained dog, huh? Let's see how a trained dog fights when you back him into a corner. That night, Camille sent another message. Camille, I don't even know what was real anymore. I was just trying to feel loved again. You've been so distant. I thought maybe if you missed me, you'd love me like you used to. The irony nearly made me laugh. I'd loved her right to the edge of blindness. Through the stress, through her cold shoulder nights, through the business retreats, and girls' wine weekends. I loved her when I had no more energy to give. When she stopped laughing at my jokes and started laughing at her phone. What broke me wasn't the affair. It was the strategy. The deliberate effort to grind me down like a damn training project. Make him feel guilty. Be gentle. He'll beg. They knew exactly what they were doing, Camille and her precious Vanessa. Puppeteers pulling strings while I brought them flowers and made pancakes. So I decided to repay the favor. Sunday morning, I sent Vanessa a message. Short and surgical. Check your email. And maybe get a good lawyer. Attached? Every screenshot from the chat thread, with Vanessa's full name and contact visible. CC'd? Her husband. Her pastor. And the nonprofit board she served on. That board had very strict morality clauses. I didn't just burn the bridge. I mailed blueprints of the fire to everyone she cared about. Poetic? Maybe. But justice wears a quiet suit and carries a loaded file. As for Camille, the final nail came Monday morning. She came home from her sister's place, where she'd fled after her hotel breakdown, only to find the locks changed. A calm, gray-suited courier handed her an envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Attached, a note, written in my handwriting. No more coffee. Get your own now. P.S. I'm keeping the mug. You know the one. I didn't need to scream. Didn't need to curse or rant or smash things. That's her style. Mine? I let the silence speak. And in that silence, she heard exactly how much she'd lost. It's funny. When you start peeling back the layers of someone's betrayal, you don't just find rot. You find a whole ecosystem of it. Vanessa was no different. She wasn't just Camille's best friend. She was the architect, the strategist, the one who fed her lines like poison-laced candy. Be gentle. He'll beg. Make him feel like the distant one. Don't confront him, confuse him. Guilt softens the resistance. I'd read those words so many times they started etching themselves into my skull. Vanessa didn't just help Camille cheat. She designed it like a military operation. The chats were riddled with her playbook. She was proud of it, drunk on her own cleverness. But clever women forget one thing. The quiet ones read everything twice. She had a husband, Michael, CFO of some boutique firm downtown. They lived in the part of the city where porch lights are always on and kids ride bikes in polite little circles. Picture perfect from the outside. But the rot? It was blooming just beneath the trim hedges. I sent Michael everything. Every message Vanessa had typed. Every photo Camille had sent her. Even the nickname she used for me, the Mutt. I didn't sign the message. Didn't need to. The truth has a way of identifying itself. By Monday evening, Vanessa's world started to shake. Camille called me again, this time crying. Not the manipulative, calculated kind. This one was raw. Desperate. He left her, she sobbed, voice cracking through the speaker. Michael packed a bag and just left. I said nothing. Just listened. Let the silence expand until it swallowed her whole. He said I'm not safe for our daughter to be around. That I let her near people like Vanessa, people like me. Still I said nothing. Because what do you say to someone who set fire to their own house and now wants you to hand them the hose? The next morning, I sent another file. This one to the nonprofit Vanessa chaired, a charity that funded after-school programs for underprivileged kids. An organization that had, in bold print, the words, integrity, accountability, family values. The board responded faster than I expected. I guess screenshots of you mocking your own husband, plotting emotional abuse, and scheduling trial runs with other people's spouses, well, that doesn't look great in a monthly newsletter. By noon, she was suspended pending an investigation. By dinner, she was gone from the website entirely. Camille sent a text at 9:06 p.m. Why are you doing this? To her? To me? Haven't you done enough? I stared at it for a while, then typed back 2 words. Trained dog. She didn't reply. By Wednesday, Camille's family started calling. Her mother, her sister, even her cousin, who I hadn't heard from since our wedding. They all had the same rehearsed tone. She's sorry. She's not herself. Think about your daughter. Yeah, my daughter. The one Camille wanted to raise while lying through her teeth. The one she kissed on the forehead before leaving to sleep with another man. The one she made call Aaron uncle when she needed a cover story. That kid? She deserves better than a mother who learns manipulation from her best friend and then uses it like scripture. Thursday morning, Camille tried to see our daughter at school. She never made it past the office. Emergency custody filings. Restraining notice on school property. Signed by a judge who had read every line of Vanessa's training manual. Camille called me from her car. Her voice was hoarse, bruised. Please, can I at least talk to her? Talk to who? I asked flatly. She paused. Our daughter. No, I said. Because you don't get to play house with someone who still smells like a hotel lie. She cried. Said she was just lost. That Vanessa filled her head with garbage. That she wanted to feel wanted again. I told her she should have bought a mirror. Hung it in every room. Looked into it before every lie, every conference, every time she wrote that I was a trained dog. I hung up. The fallout didn't end there. I got a call from Camille's job the next day, a curious HR rep looking into unprofessional behavior involving an unauthorized emotional manipulation scheme. Turns out someone anonymously forwarded the trained dog files to the company's ethics officer. Not me, by the way. That one? That came from Michael, Vanessa's ex. Guess he had a few teeth left in him after all. The storm Camille tried to conjure now held around her. And me? I just brewed coffee. Almond milk. No sugar. Hot enough to burn the tongue. Except this time, I drank it myself. Alone. And for the first time in years, it tasted just right. The thing about people like Camille is that they never truly apologize. Not unless it benefits them. Not unless they think there's still something left to salvage, some scrap of goodwill floating in the wreckage they caused. So when she asked to meet face-to-face, just once, please, I just need to say something without a phone between us. I agreed. Not because I wanted closure. Because I wanted to look her in the eye and watch the lie die mid-sentence. We met at a cafe we used to love. The kind with chalkboard menus, overpriced muffins, and indie music humming in the background. She wore a pale blue sweater I bought her 2 Christmases ago. Her hair was done just right, like she was trying to summon a version of herself I hadn't seen in years, back before the schemes and secret chats and trial trips. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not in stature. In presence. Something about her had shrunk. The confidence, maybe. Or the illusion. She smiled when I walked in. I didn't. I sat. She reached for my hand across the table. I didn't move. I'm sorry, she said. Just like that. Soft. Measured. Like it had weight. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. To us. Us. I almost laughed. But I didn't. Instead, I said, start with what you're really sorry for. She blinked. I'm sorry for the messages. The chat with Vanessa. The trip. Aaron. All of it. I waited. She squirmed in her seat. And I'm sorry I let someone else tell me how to treat you. There it was. The deflection. The devil made me do it. I shook my head slowly. That's not enough. I know, she whispered. I know. That's why I wanted to meet. I wanted to tell you the truth. All of it. Even the ugly parts. I folded my arms. I'm listening. She exhaled, long and shaky. The trial trip wasn't the first time, she said, eyes darting to her coffee cup like it might shield her. There were others. Not serious. Not emotional. Just stupid. Empty. I don't know why I did it. I felt invisible. You were always so composed. So steady. I couldn't tell if you were happy or just enduring me. I stared at her. Silent. She continued. Vanessa fed into it. Said you were too simple. Too predictable. Said I needed to shake you out of your shell. I let her get inside my head. I let that become normal. I made you feel like the problem because I didn't want to admit how broken I was. That much, I believed. Camille was broken. But not in the tragic, Hallmark movie way. In the quiet, selfish, venomous way people get when they think their pain excuses everything. When did it start? I asked. She paused. Aaron. No, I said. The manipulation. She flinched. 6 months ago. That's when Vanessa sent me the first message. About you. About how to change the power dynamic. Change the power dynamic. Like we were some corporate chess match. I nodded slowly. And you ran with it. I did. And you called me a trained dog. She looked away. I don't even remember writing that. You did. I know. I read it back. I hate that version of me. I hate her. I leaned forward just slightly. You were her. And the problem is, I didn't hate her fast enough. That landed. Her eyes glassed over. I'm not asking to come back, she said after a long silence. I know I broke too much. I just want to be in our daughter's life. Please. Now that was a different kind of play. Not manipulation, desperation. For once real. And it hit me, not with sympathy, but with clarity. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about our daughter. The one who saw her mother sneak lies like snacks between errands. The one who found the chat, and now had that fire scorched across her memory forever. The one who deserved better than two parents locked in a silent war where truth bled out slowly, behind every door. I'll think about it, I said finally. Under supervision. If she wants to see you. Camille's face cracked. Not relief, grief. But I didn't move. Didn't reach. Didn't soften. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to burn so bright you never forget what walking over them cost you. That night, I told my daughter the truth. Not the whole truth. Not the parts that would leave scars too early. But enough. She asked if Mommy still loved us. I said yes. She asked if we still loved Mommy. I said love isn't always enough. Then she asked the hardest question. Will you ever forgive her? I looked my little girl in the eyes, and I told her the most honest thing I've ever said. No, but I'll never let that stop me from being the best father I can be. She nodded, hugged me tight, and said, okay. And just like that, with a hug and a whisper, I realized something. I wasn't a trained dog. I was a wolf. And I just remembered how sharp my teeth were. Camille never really understood consequences. Not when they were abstract. When they were just words floating around in some future she never thought would come. But now she was learning what it meant to be confronted by the debris of your own choices. And I wasn't done collecting what was owed. After our meeting at the cafe, after she gave her trembling, too late confessional, I filed the final batch of documentation with the court. Custody modification, parenting time restrictions, evidence log. Everything. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for protection and proof that I could give my daughter a stable home without letting a manipulator in through the back door. Camille, of course, tried to fight back, claimed I was weaponizing her mistakes, that I was trying to erase her as a mother. I had one thing on my side, truth. Truth documented. Truth in text messages, audio clips, screenshots, calendar entries, and credit card statements. Truth she'd written in her own hand while thinking I'd never see it. Make him beg. Use the guilt. He'll cave. Those words weren't abstract anymore. They were ink on court records. And the judge? She read them aloud during the hearing. Camille couldn't look at anyone. Not me. Not the judge. Not even the bailiff. The ruling came down on a rainy Friday morning. Somehow, the weather always knows when a chapter is about to close. Primary custody awarded to the father. Supervised visits for the mother. Bi-weekly sessions. Child psychologist optional but recommended. Camille cried in the courtroom. I didn't. Because I'd already done my crying in silence months ago, before I knew the depth of the betrayal, before I realized how far she'd gone to make me doubt myself. This wasn't about payback. This was about securing peace. Later that week, I walked through the house, my house now, alone. I stood in what used to be her office. A space once filled with mood boards, journals, staged photos of a life she pretended we were building together. Now, empty shelves, stripped walls. But there, sitting on the floor behind a cracked filing cabinet, was a box she'd missed. Inside, a photo album. Us, back when things were still honest. When the smiles reached her eyes and my arm around her meant safety, not strategy. There were notes in the margins. Scribbled captions. New Year's in the cabin, he made chili, forgot the beans. He brought me coffee after my first panic attack. Just held me. Didn't speak. Just held me. God, I love this man. It could have broken me. It almost did. But then I remembered, even these pages weren't real anymore. They were drafts of a story she abandoned halfway through and replaced with something colder. Something crueler. She chose the rewrite. I chose the ending. I took the box, walked out to the fire pit in the backyard, the one I built with my own hands, and I burned it. Every last photo. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because you don't rebuild your life while keeping the ashes in the attic. I saw Camille again the next weekend. Her first supervised visit with our daughter. She looked different. Hollow. Her usual sparkle was dimmed, replaced by a shaky kind of humility that might have been real, or might have just been survival. She brought our daughter a new sketchbook. Sat beside her on the floor and colored quietly. Didn't ask me for anything. Didn't try to make eye contact. Smart. Because I wasn't the man who used to beg for scraps of attention. I wasn't the man she trained into submission. I was a father now, and nothing else came before that. After the visit, our daughter said she had fun. Then she asked if Mommy was okay. I said, Mommy's learning. Learning what? She asked. I paused. That love isn't something you twist to get what you want. It's something you protect or you lose it. She nodded. That quiet, thoughtful nod that told me she understood more than I wanted her to. She's got a strong heart, that kid. Stronger than either of her parents, probably. But where her mother turned that strength into deception. I'm going to teach her to turn it into something better. Truth. Kindness. Dignity. The kind of tools that don't just build homes, they build people. One thing betrayal never does? Stay contained. It spreads. Like smoke under a door. Like oil on water. What started as a lie between two people, Camille and Aaron, had already devoured a marriage, a friendship, a home, and it was still hungry. I didn't realize how deep the damage went until I got a call from Aaron's wife. Yes, his wife. I didn't know her name before. Had never seen her face. But apparently Camille wasn't the only one crafting fantasies while wearing a wedding ring. Her name was Rachel. She called me late one evening, just after I'd tucked our daughter into bed. The voice on the other end was brittle, like glass just before it snaps. Is this Camille's husband? She asked. Ex-husband, I replied automatically. There was a pause. Then she said, I saw the hotel records. The photos. The chat logs. I know everything. Her voice didn't shake. Not once. She wasn't calling to cry. She was calling to compare notes. Turns out Aaron had been playing the long con. Weeknight conferences, sudden weekend consulting trips, text full of empty affection and recycled excuses. Rachel said she'd known, suspected, really for a while. But it wasn't until a file showed up in her inbox from a burner email titled Trained Dogs Bite Back that she finally had the full picture. That wasn't me. I wish I could take credit for the name, poetic touch and all, but I had kept my war private. For me, for my daughter. No, someone else had sent it. My guess? Vanessa's husband. Or maybe some intern with access and no filter. Once this kind of thing starts leaking, it takes on a life of its own. Camille and Aaron had become a case study in how to torch two families with one match. Rachel asked if I'd be willing to speak to her lawyer. She was filing for divorce, had been for weeks, quietly, waiting for a final straw. Apparently my wife had provided it. With interest. I'm sorry, Rachel said at the end of the call. For what? I asked. For your daughter, she said. For what all this must have done to her. I swallowed the lump that rose up. She's stronger than either of them deserve. Rachel exhaled into the line. They deserve each other. No, I corrected. They deserve nothing. A week passed. Then another. The court formalities dragged on. Camille's supervised visits continued. She tried to play the good parent, and to her credit, She didn't push boundaries. Not anymore. But she had that look. The look of someone waiting for redemption to show up at her door in a bow. I don't think she ever understood that some damage doesn't get cleaned up. It gets quarantined. She called once. Late. Left a voicemail I never answered. You know I'm not evil, right? I just made some awful choices. I lost myself. I'm trying now. Doesn't that count for something? Sure. But not here. Not anymore. The more I rebuilt, the more I saw how many people had been dragged under the surface while Camille played puppet master. Her sister stopped calling. Vanessa's family went dark. Even mutual friends, the ones who used to sip wine on our patio and smile too wide at Aaron's jokes, had started avoiding Camille completely. One guy, Brian, texted me out of nowhere. I had no idea, man. We thought you two were solid. Camille always made it seem like you were the distant one. Quiet. Cold. Guess we never asked what she was doing while you were making her coffee. There it was again. The coffee. It became this symbol. This tiny ritual that once meant love and now meant loyalty she didn't earn. And they all saw it now. The carefully curated image she built? Shattered. No more girls' nights where she could cry about her emotionally absent husband. No more sympathy. No more indulgence. Just silence. And echoes. I started seeing a therapist. Not because I needed help understanding what happened. That part was crystal clear. But because my daughter deserved a father who processed his damage instead of burying it. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, said something that stuck with me. Anger feels productive, but resilience? That's the harder victory. He was right. I'd mastered the quiet rage, the cold planning, the trapdoor justice. But healing? That was the real revenge. Because Camille hadn't just tried to break me. She tried to redefine me, turn me into something she could control or eventually discard. But I didn't bend, didn't shatter, didn't stay her dog. Now, when I make coffee in the morning, I make one cup. Just one. For me. And it tastes like clarity. There's a strange quiet that follows destruction. A silence that doesn't feel peaceful, not at first. It's more like the hush in the air after a bomb drops, when dust floats weightless and you're still waiting to hear the next explosion. That's where I was. But not where I planned to stay. I started seeing Dr. Ellis regularly. Once a week at first, then twice. Not because I needed to be fixed. I'm not broken, just recalibrating. After all, if you let betrayal define you, then the betrayer still holds the pen. And Camille doesn't get to write my story anymore. Dr. Ellis didn't pull punches. Do you think you stayed too long? He asked once, halfway through our third session. I didn't answer right away. I just looked out the window of his office, watching a squirrel bury something in the dirt like it had a secret to keep. No, I said finally. I stayed exactly long enough to know she was gone. Gone. Yeah. You can live with someone and still be abandoned. He nodded like he already knew that answer. Probably did. People don't end up in that chair unless they've been through something similar. Maybe his betrayal came with a different name, a different flavor. But pain has a pretty universal script, doesn't it? Still, Dr. Ellis kept pressing. Do you know who you are now? Not just who you were before her. Who you are without her. That one stuck. Because I hadn't asked myself that yet. After the session, I drove to a hardware store. It wasn't a conscious decision. I just ended up there. Walking the aisles like a man looking for pieces of himself in wood, in screws, in paint samples. Then it hit me, build. That was the answer. I've always been good with my hands. Fixed cabinets. Built bookshelves. Rewired half the garage on a Saturday just to avoid another dinner filled with Camille's passive-aggressive sighs. But I hadn't built anything for myself in years. So I bought lumber, sandpaper, stain, varnish, new tools, because the old ones still held the fingerprints of a life that wasn't mine anymore. That night, after my daughter went to bed, I laid out the materials on the deck and started measuring. A bench. Nothing fancy, just something solid. Something functional. Something mine. Each plank, each screw, felt like a prayer I didn't know I was saying. Camille texted again. Did you get my letter? I left it in the mailbox. Please don't throw it out. It's not just for you. I hadn't seen it. Hadn't checked the box in 2 days. Mail didn't feel urgent anymore. So I went. Opened it. Inside, a single envelope. Handwritten. No perfume. No flair. Just a letter. She wrote about guilt. About how she couldn't sleep. About how our daughter's face haunted her. How she hated who she became and didn't know when she stopped being someone I could love. But the part that got me? I thought if I could control you, I could stop feeling so out of control myself. That if I made you weak, I could feel strong again. I was wrong. You never broke. You bent. You adapted. You're stronger than I ever saw, maybe because I never looked at you right. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was recognition. Too late. But honest. I folded the letter once, slid it into the back of my desk drawer. Not to keep. Just to remind myself that even monsters cry, eventually. But that doesn't make them less monstrous. I finished the bench 3 days later. It wasn't perfect. One leg leaned slightly. The varnish bubbled in one spot. But it was sturdy. It held weight. It didn't creak when I sat on it in the early morning with coffee in hand and my daughter curled up next to me. She asked, "Did you make this?" "Yeah," I said, smoothing a hand across the grain. "Needed something real." She looked up at me, thoughtful. "Like us." I smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Exactly like us. There's power in creation, in turning splinters into strength, in knowing that your hands can still shape something worthwhile after someone tried to convince you all you were good for was serving. Camille trained me to beg. But now, I build. That's the difference between those who break things and those who rebuild. One burns for control. The other builds for legacy. Most men inherit something from their fathers. For some, it's property. For others, maybe a watch, a toolbox, a lesson about tying a tie or starting a grill. My father left me something different. Silence. Not the calm kind. The kind that settles in a room when love walks out but keeps the door open behind it. I grew up watching my mother beg for connection and my father offering her quiet nods in return. Never cruel. Never angry. Just absent, while sitting 6 feet away. I swore I'd never become that man. And for a while, I didn't. I was present. I listened. I noticed what color Camille's eyes looked like when she was happy, and what song made her hum in the shower. I paid attention. I was the man she once told her friends spoiled her in ways no money ever could. Then slowly, she started reaching for more. And I started going quiet. Just like him. In therapy, Dr. Ellis asked me what being a man meant to me. I didn't answer right away. I thought about my father. Thought about how he never raised his voice, but also never raised me. Thought about the way Camille once accused me of being emotionally boring, like I was a spreadsheet with hands. Being a man means showing up, I finally said. Even when nobody claps. Even when nobody sees it. Even when they throw it back in your face. He nodded. And being you? That one took longer. The truth is, I'd wrapped so much of my identity around holding it together that I forgot what it felt like to build something that wasn't reactionary. Everything I did, the job, the house, the morning coffees, all of it was about keeping peace. Buying time. Stalling the storm. But now that the storm had passed, I was left standing. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't performing manhood for someone else's benefit. I was defining it for myself. It started small. I cleaned out the attic, not because I needed the space, but because it had become a museum of things that didn't serve me anymore. Wedding mementos. Camille's old vision boards. A couple's retreat pamphlet I remember hiding under a pile of papers the day I found her suitcase already packed. All of it went into the fire pit. No ceremony. No rage. Just fuel. My daughter started asking more questions. About trust. About love. About how to tell when someone means what they say. They were hard questions. But I answered every one. Because that's the real inheritance I want to leave her: truth. Not silence. We were sitting on the new bench one night when she asked, "Are you ever going to marry someone else?" I didn't lie. Maybe. But not soon. Would she be like Mommy? I thought about that for a second. No, I said gently. She'd be honest. And if she's not, she won't stay long. That seemed to satisfy her. She leaned against me and said, "You always tell me the truth." And in that moment, I realized I was nothing like my father. Because I wasn't a ghost in the room. I was there. Camille called again. This time, it wasn't a cry or beg. It was a message. I've accepted the ruling. I'll work with the therapist. I won't push. Just let her know I love her, even if I don't get to show it right now. It was the most adult thing she'd said since this all began. And strangely, it didn't make me feel anything. Not relief. Not triumph. Just neutrality. That's when I knew I'd truly let go. There's this myth that revenge is about fire. That it burns, leaves ashes. But that's not true. Real revenge is building something better. It's handing your pain a hammer and using it to craft legacy. It's refusing to pass down the broken things you inherited. It's showing your child a love that doesn't manipulate. A presence that doesn't vanish. A home that doesn't lie. I never got a watch from my father. But maybe one day, When I'm gone, my daughter will sit on this old bench, the one we built, and say, my dad showed up. He never folded. And he told the truth. That's enough. More than enough. You can't control when regret shows up. Sometimes it arrives like a flood, crashing in without warning. Other times, it trickles through the cracks, slow and quiet, until one day you're drowning in what you thought you buried. Camille? She didn't drown all at once. She leaked. And it was her therapist who finally admitted as much. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got the message. From a number I didn't recognize. Professional. Formal. But the subject line stopped me cold. Request from Dr. Lila Chin regarding Camille R. Confidential update. For a second, I just stared at it. I hadn't expected to hear anything. Camille's therapy was court-ordered, not voluntary. I figured she'd ghost her way through it, smile at the right times, nod at all the buzzwords, journal some fake vulnerability, then slide out the other side with a clean, I tried. But the message said otherwise. I opened it. Short. Precise. Mr. ______, your ex-wife has given written consent for me to share a summary of her therapeutic progress, should you wish to receive it. She has expressed interest in being transparent about her emotional development, particularly as it pertains to your daughter. Please let me know if you'd like to schedule a brief call or receive a written update. It was tempting to delete it. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. Her progress? Her burden? Her wreckage? Already swept from my floors. But I had a daughter. And daughters have long memories, especially when they've seen their mother morph from bedtime stories into a disappearing act. So I replied, call me. 6 p.m. Dr. Chin's voice was calm, professional, but not clinical. You could tell she'd spoken with broken people before. She's been consistent, she said. Every session, on time, engaged. No shows of defensiveness or dismissal. That surprises me, I admitted. It surprised her, too. There was a pause. She didn't come to apologize. At least, not at first. She came to explain. Thought if she laid out the justifications, the weight of it might shrink. But it didn't. She told you about the messages? All of them. Word for word. And Aaron. Dr. Chin took a breath. Yes. And Vanessa. And her daughter's reaction. She said seeing your daughter's face when she found the chat, that was the beginning of the unraveling. I said nothing. Let the silence fill the space. She broke. Dr. Chin continued. Not in the dramatic way people expect. She didn't cry or scream. She just shut down. Then she asked me a question I wasn't ready for. What was it? What kind of woman manipulates the only man who ever stayed? That one landed. Not because I needed the validation, but because I'd asked myself that same thing 100 times. And now I knew she had, too. She's not asking to be let back in, Dr. Chin clarified. Not with you. Not yet with your daughter. She knows trust isn't rebuilt with letters or tears, but she's trying to figure out why she did it. Why she had to. She wanted control, I said. She wanted value, Dr. Chin corrected. She told me he gave me loyalty. I wanted power. Same coin. Different side. She's planning to write a letter to your daughter, the doctor added. Not now. Later. Maybe years from now. She asked me to tell you that. So you wouldn't be blindsided when it arrives. Why tell me any of this? I asked. She could have kept it to herself. Because she finally understands what you did from the start, Dr. Chin replied. You chose to hurt quietly so your daughter wouldn't feel the blast. That night, after the call, I sat on the porch bench with a glass of bourbon and watched the stars. There's something about darkness you learn when you've walked through it. It's not what blinds you. It's what reveals who stayed with the light inside. Camille? She's in her darkness now. And maybe, for the first time, she's not trying to decorate it. She's learning to sit in it. To see herself. That's not my battle anymore. But I hope she wins it. For her sake? No. For our daughters.